Hey, this is Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio. It's Freddie and Fitzsimmons. You can catch me from 9 p. to 1 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and Sirius XM Channel 80. But when I'm not on the radio, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to is my man Brian Langford and the Unscripted podcast. You will not be sorry. Give it a listen. Give it a thought. He's going to make sure you're going to think plenty about what's going on in your life. So check it out. Brian Langford on the Unscripted podcast.
Want to listen to the podcast where we talk sports raw and unfiltered?
Mahomes looking to flip, takes it in for the touchdown.
Looking for a little something on the edgy side?
Keep your head out there. They're going to do dumb. Play our game. All right? Play hard, but stay poised.
You're about to be locked into the Unscripted podcast.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
All right, welcome everybody. Unscripted podcast here for another episode. I appreciate everybody always taking time out of their busy day, whether it's morning, night, or evening. I definitely appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedules to listen to the podcast. As always, it's a shameless plug. It's there. If you're looking at it on Facebook Live as well, you can follow me on Twitter at Brian Ain't Lying. As always, the podcast looks to improve, whether it's through audio, visual, or some other potential things going on in the near future. Just to share some news, I had a business meeting today at 12:30 with a potential sponsor. Definitely like the podcast. Definitely like to see the numbers and everything like that. So continue to download, rate, review, and subscribe. Again, thanks for everybody that's always tuned in. Everybody that's over on Facebook Live as well. So we are running a simulcast as always over on Facebook Live. All right, so I said that going forward, I would not start off a podcast talking about that team. I'm not going to do it. I dare not make that mistake. So here's what I'll do. I'll start off talking about the two newest or the two welcome backs to the NFL, and that would be Antonio Brown and Dez Bryant. So I'm a big fan of both of these guys coming back to the NFL. And if you would have asked me a year ago, would either of those guys get another opportunity in the National Football League, I would have told you no. That's just the way the NFL is set up. Once you're out, you're out. You know, a lot of people don't get a chance to come back in. For Antonio Brown, which we'll talk about first, the relationship with Tom Brady helped out a whole lot. And I get it. Bruce Arians said a couple of months ago, maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, Bruce was like, we don't want Antonio. Well, I'm good. I don't need Antonio. But see, it's not about Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians got to get it out of his head now. This is about what Tom Brady wants. If Tom Brady wants to win his 7th Super Bowl, he's going to stack the odds up as best as he can. Why? Tom Brady hasn't had a great connection with Mike Evans this year. Tom Brady usually doesn't have the best connections with taller wide receivers. So you go look at Amendola, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. These guys are smaller wide receivers. That's what he's had his greatest achievements with is smaller wide receivers. Besides Randy Moss, which was outstanding in 2007. But his thing is he likes little wide receivers. And I think that Antonio, when he came into New England, they built something special there, which made Tom Brady say, hey, Bruce, we got to at least give him a try. And I think that Tom Brady will keep his eye on Antonio Brown because this is what he asked for. This is what he wanted. You're not going to take away from what Tom Brady wants. So he wants to compete for a 7th Super Bowl championship. And I can say that Tom Brady has a good shot at it now. I've seen the reports by AB coming into practice tip-top shape, which I never doubted. I've always doubted Antonio Brown because of the sometimes attitude on the field. And I'll explain to you about the attitude after I talk about Dez Bryant, who's also back in the NFL. The Baltimore Ravens have decided to sign Dez to the practice squad. Now, guess what? At first, I was mad, okay? I was like, practice squad? Practice squad. Not the – I was getting like Iverson. Not the game. Not the game. Practice. But guess what? Dez is a humble guy. He looked at it as it's a great achievement for his career. Being out the National Football League for a couple of seasons, I think he got a complete raw deal by any team because he got known as a troublemaker. But I don't know why he got called a headache because he was never a headache. Dez was just the type of guy, he was passionate. He wanted to win. I don't go to work every day and say, I'm going to lose at work. I don't. Why would Dez come to work and say, man, I just enjoy losing? Nobody should enjoy losing. So if you're passionate about winning, I'm passionate for you. Dez gets an opportunity to probably make the 53-man roster, which I think he will, and that'll add a nice addition for Lamar Jackson. Now the question would be is, could Lamar get Dez Bryant the ball? Because while Dez has looked great on the workout videos, Dez isn't known for breakaway speed that well. He's fast, don't get me wrong, but he's not known for breakaway speed. To me, he's more of possessive. He's more of back shoulder fades. He's more of throw it up in the air. Will Lamar Jackson do that? Those are a lot of questions you have to ask the Baltimore Ravens because I don't think that's Lamar's type of game. But will Dez help out? I think Dez will help out. Do I think that both guys will end up on their respective rosters at the end of the season? Yes. I think Tom will keep Antonio calm. I think Dez is just humble enough at this point to get a second shot. So, yeah, I think both of those guys will end up on their respective rosters. Real quick here, I talked about the wide receiver position because I wrote some notes off air, but I must have misplaced them. So I remember most of this stuff off the top of my head. When I talk about a wide receiver, people say that the wide receiver position is the most divas position in the NFL. Well, guess what? Wide receivers probably use a lot of energy, okay? So the offensive linemen, they already know they got to block, right? And the running back knows he already got a block or he's going to get a carry. And the quarterback already knows he's going to throw the ball, he's going to hand the ball off or something in between all of that. The wide receiver is like, hey, I just ran 5 routes. I ran a post, a fade, a slant, in and out, or whatever the 5th route could be. I didn't get the ball not one time. And to the wide receiver, it's like, hey, I'm not even getting looked at. So when people call that position a diva position, I think it's truly unfair. Those guys spend a lot of their energy to not get the ball, especially if you feel like that you're open. Hell, if I'm open, you better throw me the damn ball. Like Keyshawn would say, throw me the damn ball if I'm open. Don't you even think. Don't you even think about not throwing me the ball. So, yeah, I think it's kind of unfair to call the wide receivers the most divas position in the NFL because, again, those guys only get the ball because of the what? The quarterback. That's the only way they get the football. All right, so I want to talk about the final road for Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. If anybody's been watching the Patriots this season, they haven't looked like the Patriots. Why? Tom Brady's gone. So right now it looks like the argument of can Brady win without Belichick and can Belichick win without Brady? Well, it looks like Brady's winning without Belichick. But it doesn't look like Belichick is winning without Brady. Now, to be fair to that assessment, Brady went to a halfway good offense. Belichick got left with Cam Newton and Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer. So it's not like he replaced Tom with like a Drew Brees or Tom with an Aaron Rodgers. He replaced Tom with Cam just coming back off of injury. And God knows Cam has been, atrocious to watch the last couple of weeks. But I think that this is the final road for Bill Belichick before he turns the team over. I don't know if it's going to go to Josh McDaniels, but I think it may be time for Josh McDaniels to step in and get ready to prepare himself for the head coaching role. Because guess what? I compare Belichick to Popovich. Popovich will probably sit through the San Antonio Spurs maybe another 2 years because they looked okay. But that's not what he wants to do. You talk about contending, contending for a championship. I don't think the Patriots are going to be there come the end of the season. Don't get me wrong. I think the AFC East will be competitive all the way up to the end of the year. But the way Cam Newton is playing, he's going to get pulled. And if he gets pulled, if Jarrett Stidham is in the game, nah, man. I'm sorry. Jarrett Stidham is not going to win you a lot of football games. So, yeah, I think we have reached the end of the road for Bill Belichick. I think it was a great coaching career. I'm not going to retire Bill today, but I think that Bill just needs to say, hey, I'm going to wave the flag, and this is it. Hey, think about it. When Bill was with the Cleveland Browns in 1994, nobody seen this coming from Belichick. He got the Browns to the playoffs, but nobody seen Belichick being a Hall of Fame coach. And what is he ending up? A Hall of Fame coach. So if Bill walked away at the end of the season, I personally am not mad or saying that, Brady won that battle, Belichick lost. I just think that Belichick didn't have the right personnel to succeed without Tom Brady. Hence why they probably should have kept Jimmy Garoppolo. Even though Garoppolo hasn't been good with San Francisco, it's happened with Belichick. He let Castle go, and Castle wasn't that great when he left New England. But for some reason, when you're in that New England Patriots jersey, things tend to change. And while we're talking about change, I said we wasn't going to start the podcast off with them, but we definitely are going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. So the Dallas Cowboys brought in Dontari Poe, Darryl Worley, Everson Griffin. They brought in all these guys, and none of these guys have panned out. Now, I will give credit. I don't know who made this call, but to cut all of these guys, Clinton-Dix didn't even make the roster. So, again, if you're friends with Clinton-Dix and you're listening to the podcast, that tells you how bad Clinton-Dix really is, because he couldn't make this bad defense. But the Jones family, the organization, decided to move on from all of those guys. And I think it was the right move. It's the right time. You can't wait. Something isn't working. Something isn't happening. Like, I watched guys effortlessly try to make tackles against Washington on Sunday in a blowout loss. Listen, they go out there against Philadelphia. Philadelphia is going to steamroll through Dallas with no problem. And the question is, and I said this every single time, I felt like now that Dallas over the last 4 or 5 seasons have tried to piece together teams. So I get it. Romo goes down, and God knows you didn't know what to do next. So you put the kid in, Dak Prescott, and he's worked out well. But remember this: you drafted Ezekiel Elliott when you had DeMarco Murray, and you traded. Not when you had him, but you traded DeMarco Murray and you ended up drafting Ezekiel Elliott, right? And then you signed Amari Cooper to a long-term extension, but then you draft Gallup. Then you draft CeeDee Lamb, which makes Gallup think like, wow, you guys don't think I'm the future as well? And they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because now Dallas is going to have to trade Michael Gallup before the trade deadline. Everybody's telling me, oh, man, Dallas won't have to trade Gallup. Yes, they will. Dallas has to trade Michael Gallup, unless they're going to trade Amari Cooper. But the thing is, who's going to buy the Amari Cooper story? Who's going to say that, oh, man, Amari Cooper will be ready, Amari Cooper will be prepared, Amari Cooper could be a star somewhere else? It hasn't panned very well this year, and I get it. Dak only played a couple of games. I know instantly when Cooper came through the door, they were on fire. They were hitting the hole in. They were throwing touchdowns across the field. It looked good. Now there's some problems. And then they're going to start Ben DiVicci, I believe. Ben DiVicci. Look, Danucci. There his name is. God, man, look, that's how bad it is. I can't even say the guy's name. And it's no disrespect to him. I think he deserves an opportunity to even play. He deserves a shot. Shout out to my man Adam Powers listening to the podcast. Adam, I appreciate you as always, and everybody else. Dallas has to blow the entire team up again, right? Because it's that time. So when you go into the draft and you draft all these players, with any team, not just Dallas, let me put that out there. With any team, your window is 3 to 4 years. Why? You got those guys on the rookie contract. You're thinking about, okay, when the rookie contract is up, what are those guys going to want to get? These guys are going to want to get paid, right? Am I saying something crazy? No, I'm not. Look at it. Look at every team that has won the Super Bowl. The guy wants to get paid and they leave. New England runs it perfectly. They stack them with draft picks, so when the guy wants to get paid, they end up moving on from the guy and they go draft another guy. Dallas has to, at this point, think about blowing up the entire thing. I get it. They're 2-5 in the NFC East. They're not out of it. But you don't want to win the division and be stuck with the 17th, 18th pick in the draft. That's what I keep saying about the NFC East winner this year. The NFC East winner is going to be stuck with the 17th or 18th pick in the draft. So if I'm Dallas, I honestly think about, completely just blowing it up. I mean, the offensive line is brutal. And Adam said it perfectly. The offensive line is brutal. But you got to think about it. Over the years, they drafted all of that, and they got no Super Bowl. They got 0 Super Bowl out of all these Pro Bowl offensive linemen, Travis Frederick, Ty Smith, Zach Martin. Like, at one time, like, their worst offensive linemen could have started on majority of the team. So, I mean, again, I want to see Dallas do some different things. They're going to have to make some changes. And I think Mike McCarthy could be a one-and-done coach. So, it's just me. That's just me. I think Mike McCarthy could be one and done. I know he's jumping the gun very soon, but he could be. All right, real quick before we take a quick break, everybody knows there was a game last night. I don't like talking about like stats and numbers and games, and I like to talk about the inevitable. Like, so yes, Atlanta won the game last night. My thing is, does Atlanta think about trading Julio Jones? Everybody goes, "Are you crazy? Why would you even think about trading Julio Jones?" Again, you get older. Some team out there wants to win now. Seattle. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that Julio Jones would be a Seattle Seahawk, but Seattle just seen Tampa Bay get Antonio Brown. So let's say if Antonio Brown is working out well, or let's say if they feel like Antonio Brown's going to work out well, do they call in and say, hey, we want Julio and we can offer you this? And shout out to my cousin, Antonio, stay fly all day. Shout out to you. He states that the Cowboys are going through the same thing his Steelers went through last season. That is exactly right. And look, shout out to your Pittsburgh Steelers, because I definitely talked bad about the Steelers at the beginning of the year. Not bad, but I said that Ben is due to miss 3 games. We aren't there yet, but I still say Ben is usually due to miss 2 games. But shout out to the Steelers. They're undefeated. They're playing well. Offense on all cylinders. Defense is playing lights out with T.J. Watt. I cannot take anything away from the Pittsburgh Steelers. But if I'm the Seattle Seahawks, do I call about Julio Jones? Because at the end of the year, I don't think Raheem Morris will be the head coach of the team. I think Morris would be, suited to be a great coordinator, but I don't see him getting another shot. And I would love for Raheem Morris to get a shot. It looks like Atlanta plays a little bit harder for him than Dan Quinn. But I say this, at the end of the year, I think Atlanta's going to go and start doing some soul searching, because Atlanta, just think about this, a couple of years ago, they were in the Super Bowl, and a couple of years out, no coach, no winning record, no anything. All right, real quick, one more quick thing before we take a quick break. Trevor Lawrence has tested positive for the coronavirus, COVID-19. Listen, I'm waiting for the false positive to come in. Who believes that the false positive will happen? Because, again, the coronavirus is real. Let me clear any of that up. The coronavirus is real. But for some reason, like Nick Saban, he took a test and was positive, and then took 3 more tests and was negative. So basically, they called it a false positive. Now, Trevor Lawrence is out this week. Then he has to quarantine for 10 days? But suppose he takes 2 other tests and then they're negative. Adam, that's coming soon. Suppose he takes 2 tests and then they're negative. Does he get an opportunity to play? Like, see, this was going to be my problem in the NFL season. I am not putting this on anybody, and God knows I don't wish it. I truly don't wish it. Somebody towards the end of the year is going to be fighting for a playoff spot, whether it's the NFL or college. And then there's going to be a false coronavirus test that gets put out there, and it's going to hurt their team from winning. I'm just going to put that out there. I for some reason, that's my gut feeling. I think it'll happen. I mean, again, I always say that the coronavirus definitely is real. All right, let's take a quick break here. Everybody on Facebook Live, unfortunately, you will not get the commercial break, but if you're listening to the podcast on the link, you definitely will. When we come back, we will talk about Steven Silas being named the new head coach of the Houston Rockets, and the Nets are trying to be the Phoenix Suns 2.0. And if you didn't get a chance today, get out and early vote. There is no excuses. Vote. VOTE. I waited in line 8 minutes. 8 minutes of my life. That is not a long time to wait to vote for change. That's all I'm going to say. I do not do politics on this podcast. All right? So we'll talk a little bit NBA after the break. Remember to vote and hang tight, folks.
This is President Barack Obama. In the story of America, the greatest chapters are moments of challenge, when we see people serving their country and one another. Volunteers who step forward into hospital corridors and church basements, along levees and fire lines. And the next chapter is yours to help write. Sign up to volunteer at usaservice.org. That's usaservice.org. Let's renew America together.
A message from Renew America Together, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Dimes are shiny and round. Nickels are also round.
This 28-year-old woman may sound a little strange to you and me, but to her 3-year-old daughter, she makes perfect sense.
Pennies are round too.
They are.
When you talk with your child, you build vocabulary, and learning starts long before school does. So follow their lead. Take everyday moments like an errand at the bank and turn them into learning moments.
Dollars are rectangles.
I like dollars.
Turn everyday moments into learning moments. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
I got to talk. I got to tell what I feel. I got to talk about my life as I see it. Biggie.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Unscripted podcast is back. If everybody knows, man, those commercial breaks, they're so quick, but I got to do so much in between the break. All right, so try getting some water. Try setting up the PSAs to run so they can run so you can go get some water. Try checking your phone for all your messages that are coming through. Man, it's a lot to do within the span of that 1 minute. But, yeah, again, I appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. I know people had a lot of questions. Trust me and believe me, we will be able to tap in, and we'll have either a phone line set up or another additional way to tap in so everybody can be a part of the podcast. Again, you can rate, review, subscribe. And as always, if it's in your heart, you can donate to the podcast using the money sign, Brian Ain't Lying. Again, I always say this on my Facebook statuses. Even if it's $1, don't be ashamed. I understand that we are in a pandemic, and every dollar for me matters to continue to bring you decent and a decent product. And again, you got ways that the podcast can improve. Feel free to reach out to me. I take constructive criticism very, very well. So don't feel like you can't reach out. All right, so I say when we come back from the break, you see how I incorporated Biggie Smalls in there? Because you know why? I want to talk about the Brooklyn Nets. So the Nets have got Amari Stoudemire, Udoka, and now Mike D'Antoni as assistant head coaches. Now, where I'm confused at with this is Mike D'Antoni is an assistant coach. So he left Houston from being a head coach to wanting to be an assistant coach under Steve Nash. And I wonder, does Steve Nash is he thinking this through? Like, is that not pressure? Don't get me wrong. I don't think Mike D'Antoni wants to be a head coach anymore. But when people start saying, oh, Steve Nash may not be succeeding, Mike D'Antoni sitting right next to him, I mean, at least D'Antoni could probably get you to the second round, because I think now with Phoenix Suns 2.0 from the 7 seconds or less offense, I still say Brooklyn is a second round exit. You know, people are saying they have KD and Kyrie. Listen, Kyrie Irving won a championship with LeBron James, okay? Before LeBron James, Kyrie didn't sniff the playoffs, okay? So then he wanted to be traded because he wanted to get out of LeBron's shadow, and he did not do a great job leading Boston. Not a great job at all leading the Celtics, especially with those young guys with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum coming in the door. Not a great job. Kevin Durant, who I've been always critical of, won 2 championships and 2 back-to-back finals MVPs with the Golden State Warriors. Now, I get it. It is tough to win back-to-back championships and you won back-to-back finals MVPs. But if we do know one thing, Steph Curry doesn't play well in the NBA Finals. Klay Thompson tends to fade away. I am not going to take nothing away from KD, but KD joined a 73-9 team. Nobody in their right mind didn't think they were going to win back-to-back titles. I knew for a fact they were going to win back-to-back. Seriously, I said if they don't have an injury, if they didn't have an injury, I said Golden State could three-peat. And the injury to Kevin Durant hurt. And everybody keeps saying, well, Brian, you took KD out, and look what happened to him in the finals. They lost in Game 6. Klay Thompson tore his ACL. Klay didn't play game, 2 or 3? Golden State was damn well in the game without Kevin Durant. Let's not think that KD was just completely needed for Golden State to go back to the finals. I will say this on this podcast. Not once did they ever really need Kevin Durant. Yes, I said it. They didn't need Kevin Durant. So, KD now must win a title with Brooklyn to me. I think if he wins the title with Brooklyn, he shuts the world up. He shuts Brian up. And I go, you know what? Yeah, he that dude. He that dude. Because guess what? When LeBron won those championships with the Miami Heat, everybody said, can he do it without D. Wade and Chris Bosh, especially D. Wade? And he said, fine, I'm going home. I'm going to Cleveland. And he won another championship, right? And everybody said, oh, man, I don't know if he can do it anymore because he got hurt in 2018. And guess what LeBron James does again? He wins another championship. So what I'm saying is Kevin Durant has to accept this criticism. He said that, and this is KD saying this, if I beat LeBron twice in the finals and you guys are calling LeBron the GOAT, what does that make me? And I paraphrased all of that. It makes you a guy on a 73-9 team that won. Like, if you would have beat LeBron in 2012 in OKC, man, I would have given you credit and been like, yeah, you got LeBron's number. And everybody says, oh, man, well, Kevin Durant played the Miami Heat Big Three. Don't act like Russell Westbrook and James Harden weren't great. Like, James Harden was coming off the bench, and he stunk it up in the NBA Finals. Okay? So that's one thing I guess I could give to KD. But Oklahoma City won one game that year in the NBA Finals. So, again, if it ends up next year, the Lakers and the Nets, I like the Lakers. If it ends up, the Clippers, which I don't see it. If it ends up the Clippers and the Nets, I like the Clippers. If it ends up anybody in the Nets, I like the Western Conference. Again, I don't think, in my opinion, Kyrie is razzle-dazzle. I don't think Kyrie is that great. Good, yes. Great, but I'm not going to beat the Nets up. Whatever. I'll just deal with it. Because I know KD fans are probably ready to start texting me, being like, "Oh, KD, you hate KD. You know, you're just like Skip. You just choose a guy." No, I don't. I don't choose a guy to hate on. I respect Kevin Durant in this game. I'm saying this. I like to challenge people. I challenge LeBron. I still challenge Carmelo Anthony to this day. I will challenge people to be better. Whether or not they hear me on my challenge is one thing or another. I don't give a damn. So, all right, TWolves are going to meet with LaMelo Ball this week. Listen, LaMelo, tell your dad stay home. Your dad almost sabotaged Lonzo Ball. Well, he did because he got Lonzo Ball traded from that Los Angeles Lakers. So, tell your dad stay away, LaMelo. Your dad, tell daddy stay home. He doesn't have to drop you off at daycare anymore. It's over with. So, this is going to be a weird draft because if LaMelo Ball is the number one pick, and again, I haven't watched college basketball last year, but to me, that's a stretch. LaMelo being the number one pick? Okay, whatever. All right, let's talk about an intriguing name real quick here. Bradley Beal. So, the Wizards are going to come back this season. Expected to have John Wall and Bradley Beal in the backcourt. But I've been thinking, do the Wizards think about trading Bradley Beal? But here's why. Here's why the Wizards probably should trade Bradley Beal. When John comes back, is John going to do what John did before? There was a game, and I wish I could bring it up on the podcast, so you guys can visually see it. But you may have to go to YouTube. John Wall came back one time from injury against the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland and just started doing his own thing. Like, the team was moving the ball. The team was much better. Things just were in groove. And then John Wall just came in and was like, yo, I'm still John Wall. I'm still going to do my thing. The Wizards have this problem as well. They like to continue to piece the team together. Now, if I'm Washington, if the right team calls me with a package deal for Bradley Beal, I would probably entertain it. And when I say entertain it, I would think Golden State, as long as Golden State is including Andrew Wiggins, because I think Wiggins and Wall will work well together. If it's Portland, let's just say if it's Portland, it's got to be C.J. McCollum in the mix. And I think C.J. for Brad, they're the same player, but I'm just throwing things out there. I don't think Boston, which Boston should consider it. Boston should consider trading Jaylen Brown for Bradley Beal and whatever in between, because, again, I said this on a previous podcast, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum do the same thing. I think Bradley Beal would fit better with Boston, and I think JB would do better with the Wizards, but that's no here or there. But I hope that the Wizards, are able to build that team, and maybe if they come back, John Wall, Bradley Beal, those guys are maybe in sync, but John's got to understand this. That is no longer his team. That team is Bradley Beal's team. And yes, I would like to see the Wizards can Scott Brooks. Look, the Wizards, when you can Scott Brooks at some point, do not hire another retread coach. The Wizards keep doing this. They bring some coach in that won like 10 years ago, and they be like, oh, yeah, we just hired a coach that won 10 seasons ago. That doesn't mean anything 10 years ago. You need to think about now and improving your team in the future. Sam Cassell has joined Doc Rivers in Philadelphia on his coaching staff. I don't think Sam's going to get a sniff at ever being an NBA head coach. If anybody's a big fan of the NBA, it's me. I used to sit with my cousins in the 90s, and one of my cousins, DeMont, he usually checks in on the podcast and listen. He's a big Charles Barkley fan. So I watched a ton of Houston Rockets, Phoenix Suns games where Sam Cassell would just, go off. And even through Sam's career, Sam Cassell is a good teacher, and I think he's a good student of the game. He's not getting an opportunity, but it's not a bad thing. And then congratulations goes out to Steven Silas, named the new head coach of the Houston Rockets. Now, I get it. Everybody is saying what? I'm not saying what, okay? I did not want to see Jeff Van Gundy get another crack at this. So a lot of guys were like, man, let me give Van Gundy another shot. No, Van Gundy doesn't get another shot at this. Not at Houston. No, I like Jeff Van Gundy on TV. That time is past him. We need to be able to bring in new coaches, new talent, see how things work. And I know Steven Silas wants to come into the Houston Rockets and maybe change a couple of things, but maybe add a couple of things. Because, look, I'm going to tell you like this. If I'm Houston, I'll be on the phone with Philly. I say, hey, Philly, you want him? You still want to keep Embiid? Because if I'm Philly, I probably would keep Ben Simmons over Embiid. And people would say, why would you keep Ben Simmons over Embiid? Embiid's a scorer. Embiid can do this. Look, Embiid's gassed out by the end of the first quarter. So if he can't go full quarters, what are you using for? You're using for nothing. So if I could trade and maybe move Al Horford to the 5, Al Horford did it anyway. I don't know. There's a lot of things that could happen. But again, shout out to Steven Silas being named the head coach of the Houston Rockets, man. That is something very big for our league, because I think that he deserved an opportunity, just like any other assistant coach that is sitting there. And I'll say this, whether you're black or white, I think any assistant coach deserves an opportunity to become a head coach as well. All right, just a quick, cliff note before we get out of here. The Clippers are expected to pursue Rajon Rondo, which, if you see my tweet on Twitter, I did it 2 weeks ago now. I said that the Clippers were going to pursue Rondo in free agency. Why? The Clippers lack a point guard. Lou Will's not a point guard. Pat Beverly is not a point guard. They need a point guard like Rondo. And I think Rondo could cash in just like Al Horford did at the end of his career and get a solid contract. All right, before we get out of there, I want to talk real quick about the Celtics and Gordon Hayward. So Gordon Hayward has a big contract coming into next season. If he declines the player option, I think it's $27 million that he would be declining. If Gordon Hayward declines $27 million, that says there's something wrong with the Boston Celtics organization. Because who in their right mind declines $27 million to test themselves to get another contract? Because I don't really see Hayward getting another contract if he opts out with Boston. Now, we didn't think Al Horford was going to get a phone call as we're leaving. And Dallas and Philadelphia offered him crazy money to come join their organizations. So, again, I think Horford was more durable, more dependable. For Hayward, I get it. The injuries have piled up over the last couple of seasons. But if he doesn't opt into the $27 million, that means it's two things. Something's wrong with Boston, or Gordon Hayward wants to win at this point of his career. And I shout out to everybody that tunes to the podcast, too, as well. Shout out to my man, Brandon Jameson. He taps in and he says Gordon Hayward ain't getting $27 million from nobody else. Hell no. But the thing is Gordon Hayward thinking about, I want to win? Because, again, Boston's reached their ceiling. There's the Eastern Conference Finals. Let's say if the Lakers come calling. Let's say if the Lakers say, hey, Gordon, opt out of that. We'll give you, 1 year, whatever. We'll give you the $10 million deal for 1 year. He'll be opting out from $17 million. Let me tell you this. Gordon Hayward opts out from $27 million. No, I got a problem. I got a huge problem because David West is the only dummy to opt out of a contract just to win a championship. Listen, when you play anything, it's about winning championships. I get it. But I would never, in my right mind, turn down $27 million to try to go contend for an NBA championship. That doesn't make or break me. $27 million definitely does make or break me. And then Brandon also says that they want to, the Clippers want to take Rondo from the Lakers. I mean, of course. You see what Rondo did in that bubble? Like, Rondo set himself up for another contract. That's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Rondo set himself up for another contract, and I ain't even mad at the dude. I'm not mad. All right, then the NBA season is supposed to – so there's like 3 start dates in the NBA season. You got December 22nd, January 16th, and then after MLK Day, and there's so many things. Listen, it all comes down to what LeBron James says. LeBron James says, I'm not playing basketball again until January. We're not kicking off until January. Would it look good for the NBA to try to get in 72 games? Yes, they need 72 games. But if they squeeze in 66 or even 60, I'm still okay with that. I'm just okay. But I think it all depends on when LeBron James is going to say we're playing basketball again. He's not a part of I think LeBron's not a part of the CBA. I'm sorry, he's not a part of the Players Association. But, again, the best player in the league has a lot of stroke, and he gets to determine whether or not when they're going to play. Let's see. Gordon Hayward should opt in and hope to get traded, possibly to a winner, same as CP3. He doesn't want to be in OKC. You know what, honestly? CP3, OKC should run it back. I hate to say it. I get it. Again, for Chris Paul, he's coming to the end of the career, which, damn, if you listen to the podcast, just think about this. LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, CP3 coming to the end of their careers. That shows that all of us that are listening have started to age. And if you're a little bit younger and you're like, man, CP3 is like old as dirt, then, yeah, man, I know how that feels because I was the same way in the 90s when, guys like Patrick Ewing and Alonzo Mourning got old eventually. So, yeah, to be in this position now to start looking at it like these people are getting old, it's intriguing. Definitely intriguing. All right, so congratulations goes out to the Los Angeles Dodgers, which I don't want to feel like that, didn't give them their credit where their credit is due. For me, baseball was 60 games. I'm not going to discredit the Dodgers, but I don't think 60 games to me determines a real champion. At least with football, you're getting a full season. At least with basketball, you got at least 80% of their season. Even though there was a long delay and no fans or anything like that, you were able to get at least 80% of the season in. With baseball, you got maybe a quarter of the season in. So, I mean, again, the Dodgers, they needed this more than any team. They won the championship. And I know everybody's like, do it for Kobe, do it for Kobe. Listen, I get it. I love Kobe to death. We got to let Kobe rest a little bit, though. And again, I'm a big fan of do it for Kobe. Got to let him rest just a little bit, man. And I love Kobe Bryant to death. I think that his inspiration for every team, not just the Lakers or the Dodgers or any LA team. I think every team was motivated to win their respective championships this year because, guys like Kobe was built on winning. But, it comes a time where you just got to say, hey, man, rest in peace, and we're gonna continue to do it for you, but we don't have to come up with crazy memes and I've seen all this 24 and plus 8 and 8 plus 2, and that's a lot of time on your hand, man. But again, not going to discredit that. All right, so going forward, before we get out of here, there will be some improvements on the podcast where everybody will be able to chime in and call in as well. As always, I always say this: continue to donate to the podcast. Things will get better. You will see the improvements. Again, do not be ashamed if you send $1. It is not a bad thing. I do understand that we're dealing with this pandemic. We all have families we need to feed. We all are trying to hold on to everything. And if you haven't had time today, you still have time. Go out and vote. Okay? I don't want to hear your excuse come Wednesday and you didn't vote. Okay? So you have no say-so in whatever the result that happens. You have no say-so in if you didn't vote. You cannot be pouting about, this guy won. You can't do that. So, again, go out, vote. Your vote counts. Make a difference. Remember, God is love. Get some. I appreciate everybody listening to the Unscripted podcast, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Unscripted Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time.